welcome to the Northern Film Review. This week we were talking about the film Zodiac, a David Fincher film based on real-life events of a murdered murderer. It's all about murder, mystery, and mayhem. Hopefully you enjoy. The Northern Film Review, with your hosts, Oliver Ellis and Luke Simpson. Hello, Luke. How you doing?
Hello. I am half asleep still.
Yes, aren't we all?
Aren't we all? Yeah.
That is how I've been feeling the past couple of days.
Managed to finish the essay off, which I just need to look through. But happy about that.
Film art essay, which is, I mean, if you don't know, we are doing an essay which is just one of the most incomparably sort of boring. It's not like difficult, is it?
No, it's tedious. Very tedious.
Because it's just constantly sort of, I think with other sort of courses where it's mostly essay based, you might get into the rhythm of writing an essay. But since we only write essays ever so often,
it's like we do.
It's quite
3 essays
difficult.
a year.
Yeah,
not even
and
that.
like trying to sort of get into the swing of it is quite difficult. And you're like, oh my god, now I have to relearn how to do a citation, and it's just painful beyond belief. But yeah, it's been a stressful couple of weeks, isn't it? So but I'm glad to be doing this, and I'm glad it'll be over in the next couple of days, hopefully. But then again, that's when the real work starts, isn't it?
Yeah, then we've got our experimental film to hand in by January 11th, something like that, and then we start our actual filmmaking module, which we've been doing script writing for. We've been doing treatments for. We're doing a pitch for it very soon, so woo! Welcome to the art of filmmaking.
I know it's a lot more work than we all envisioned, but it's good. It's good, and I think we're enjoying it, aren't we?
Oh, loving
it. It'll all be worth it.
We complain, but it's
a couple of years ago, I think.
Slack for I think the main reason why I got lots of slack is because of the time the length of the film, 2 hours 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I think it's perfectly paced, perfectly edited. I think not too many cuts or anything like that. It's beautiful, and it's one of my favorite films, I think.
Yeah. Do you just want to give us a little synopsis of what it's about? So
I can do, yeah. So, like what you said in the beginning, it's a true life film, and it's set in the late 60s, early 70s, based on the real life serial killer, the Zodiac. The fear grips San Francisco as the ruthless killer stalks and kills people. Investigators played by Mark Ruffalo and Anthony Edwards, and reporter Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. become obsessed by learning who the killer's identity is and bringing him to justice. At the same time with that, the Zodiac starts toying with them, sending them letters which are cryptid in this weird language, used of multiple different languages in one, loads of different just cryptic messages and ciphers, and they put it in the newspaper to try and get cryptographers to decode it and stuff like that. And they managed to decrypt one or two of them, but I think one in the end couldn't be solved. So, and along with that, they get menacing phone calls at the newspaper company and also at their homes.
Yeah. It is. It's an interesting film, and I've certainly got a differing opinion to you. But how it's done is sort of like it's not as well critiqued as it's not highly ranked as other films we've done, such as Portrait or Portrait of a Lady on Fire,
Spider-Man,
Hereditary. I can't remember what the first one we did.
We did Shining first, wasn't? No, it wasn't. We did Parasite first.
Parasite. It was not as well reviewed as those, but it's decently well reviewed. So Rotten Tomatoes score 89, critic score 77, audience score, and a review from there from the Outlook just from Outlook. So that Downing Jr. is perfect as the alcoholic wastrel of a crime reporter, Paul Avery, as is Mark Ruffalo as the dependable cop, David, which is
Dave.
an interesting thing. I think it's something we'll perhaps come on a little later, the acting in the film. And then Metacritic, it is a 70. I don't know whether I've got these wrong around. 78. I think that's 78. Oh yeah, 78 critic score. I kept saying the word 78. And an
78.
8.5 just general score. And they're relatively they're high, but they're not sort of super high. And the New York Times said, rarely has a film with so much blood on its hands seem so intensely alive, which is interesting. And I think one of the things of this film that are I think people really like or they really think to stand out is the acting in the film.
Yeah.
People really love the acting, and I think I mean I don't disagree, but I
Mhm.
don't sort of wholly agree with that. Because people say like Robert Downey Jr.'s acting is really good, and obviously Mark Ruffalo and the people in the film.
Yeah, Jay Gyllenhaal as well.
Yeah, and that sort of the acting going on in there. Um, in terms of sort of how they acted it, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, I suppose they had a lot to sort of go off in terms of because when you're an actor, you tend to look at what people in real life sort of do and how they sort of enact in that sort of things.
Mm,
So like you go like, oh, I'm playing the Pope. I'm going to look at the sort of how the Pope acts in real life, sort of thing.
yeah.
I suppose you could kind of get that with Zodiac. So I feel like it tends to lead into better acting.
Yeah.
um, I don't know what's your opinion on sort of the acting in the film?
I like it. For
Mm,
such a long film, you need to have good acting because otherwise
mm,
you'll get bored. And I think it grits me to see. I was so intrigued because I'm one of the people who love watching stuff about serial killers and stuff like that. Uh,
mm,
and yeah, and it was and I'm kind of happy that they chose Robert Downey Jr. to play that role, and because I think that
mm,
was the start. I think that was the start of his comeback as well. Um, the role of of Paul Avery in Zodiac. Um,
mm.
I think it suited him well. I'm kind of glad they gave him a chance to do it, and it just proves you need to give people a chance to act. And then now look where he is now. He's what in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm,
He's done well for himself, and yeah.
mm,
But going back to acting, yeah, I think the acting is brilliant. I think it's engaging, which obviously actors have to do.
mm.
But especially for a long film, they need to keep at it. And I know for me personally, they did that for me.
Yeah, I think I sometimes feel Robert Downey Jr.'s acting tends to be sort of a bit overwhelming at times in his other films.
Mm,
So like I mean I'm not a big fan of Iron Man or sort of general
yeah,
Marvel films, but like I thought in Iron Man he was a bit sort of overbearing and sort of there's a bit too much Robert Downey Jr. But I think in a film like Zodiac, it kind of plays to sort of an idea that because he's a B character or a supporting actor in the film,
yeah,
um, it kind of works a bit more because it's not like sort of overbearing and the sort of like the charisma that Robert Downey Jr. has is kind of like it's done in little doses throughout the film, which I think is a much better sort of way to use a person like Robert Downey Jr. in a film as more of a supporting actor who is quite dramatic rather than being sort of a leading man.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's just my opinion of
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
Wait, yeah, I would agree with you in that sense.
Yeah.
I think Robert kind of plays himself in oh yeah, in the majority of his films that he's in, especially when you see
Mm,
Tony Stark and stuff like that.
mm,
But yeah, more subtle roles are brilliant for him. I think there was a really. Have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, he's in that, and I think that was either just before Zodiac or just after it. That was a brilliant film, and yes, he was the main character, but he wasn't main character. Like there was two main characters, so it's kind of like two B characters to make one big character. He wasn't in the whole film, but I think that's good for that reason that you explained. That yes, he can be overbearing at some points and too much of himself and not energetic as such, but a bit too much a bit too hot to handle sometimes.
Yeah, and he does play a lot of sort of leading men in his film, in the majority of the films that he's in. And obviously, you know, people do enjoy his work and people do like him as an actor.
Sherlock Holmes is a good idea of that. I think
Yeah.
it wasn't too overwhelming in that because Sherlock Holmes is an eccentric character.
But I also, I mean, I think that I have many problems with Sherlock Holmes as a film. I think it's a relatively bad film in my opinion. But like, yeah, yeah, I don't know. The acting is interesting in it, and I think that's sort of the final point there. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Like we said, it's directed by David Fincher, who has made a couple of other sort of very famous
Thrillers.
sort of thrillers and filmy films, I like to call them.
Filmy films. Explain what a filmy film is then.
So, what I mean by like a filmy film is like something that's very unironically a film, and it's kind of like it's so because I think one of the sort of the categories of like what I tend to think of what separates a movie from a film is the sort of the idea of cinema and the idea of it being cinematic.
Yes.
And I think he also makes films for people who like films. So if you're really into films, you go, oh, David Fincher, he's great. I really like Fight Club, or I really like Seven, or I really like The Social Network.
Yeah.
And he makes films that are very filmy films, and he wants you'd want to go and see in the cinema, or you might want to buy a DVD of.
Yeah.
And he makes these sort of these filmy films. Perhaps it's the term that I'm coining now, filmy films. But I think it's a pretty apt sort of description of his films. And what I like about David Fincher films is he has a very defined sort of style, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you watch like Social Network or you watch Zodiac, and you're like, yeah, there's definitely a theme going on here. You know what I mean?
And I could, you could easily say what one of the main styles is, and it's definitely the lighting and color. Especially in his more darker thrillers, Zodiac, Panic Room, Seven. It's the use of blues and greens, especially in it.
Yeah.
I've been doing lots of research on the Zodiac recently because of the film art essay, so I'm a bit knowledgeable of it.
Bit knowledgeable,
knowledgeable of it. But yeah, the uses of blues and greens, blues in. I mean detachment, and you can see that clearly in Graysmith. He's becoming more detached from the world. He's becoming more obsessed with catching the killer, and yeah, and he comes detached from his wife, and which eventually led to the wife's divorce. And I found this quote on IMDb trivia, which I found hilarious, and it was the only real comment that Robert Graysmith gave about the finished screenplay is, "God, now I see why my wife divorced me." Which I found really funny.
I mean, yeah, I think also another thing with what makes sort of David Fincher films so David
Fincher,
and I keep using Finchery.
Yeah.
I keep using Uri in my descriptions of his films. Is the sort of the set design is very sort of I think it's a topic that we haven't really discussed that much. I think and typically if you sort of go into film critique, or if you watch or listen to people do film reviews, or
Yeah.
you sort of watch student films, production design and sound tend to be overlooked a lot.
Yeah, it's all about the cinematography and all the camera
Or the direct,
moves and the
or
direction.
yeah, or the directing, or the sort of the writing, or whatever.
Yeah.
But the production design on these films are so sort of it's quite good. I like it a lot, and it really I like it a lot.
I like it a
And
lot.
and I'm just it's really interesting the sort of the ways that he sort of uses it to sort of define a style, and to sort of really sort of capture the essences of his films in such a way. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I would 100% agree.
Mm.
In my opinion, mise en scene is really important to the art of filmmaking.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And set design and location scouting and makeup, costume, all that jazz is so important to get you fully immersed in a film. Um,
Mm.
if people watching have no idea what mise en scene is, if you're quite new to film and stuff like that, it's it basically helps explain the visual design or theme of the film, which consists of set design, costume, hair, makeup, lighting, color,
Mm.
space, acting, and stuff like that. And it's not important just for like the look of the film; it's also for the help to explain the story, like I mentioned earlier.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's what if you want to go into film or come to film uni or anything like that. That's one thing you'll learn a lot about at uni is mise en scene. Very very important. And
Mm.
like
Mm.
what Oliver explained, it's the set design. You will overlook that, but it's so important to immerse you into a film because let's say David Fincher directed a new. Oh, let's say he was directing Zodiac now, and all the walls were bright pink and yellow and all bright and happy and not chipped walls and it was nice and bright and sunny outside. It wouldn't get you into the feel of it, would it?
Mm.
You become detached from the film, and
Mm.
you will be less interested. You won't feel, oh, this is not a thriller. This is not nerve wracking. Uh, whereas he used blues, greens. He used chipped walls. He used red and darkness a lot, which helps accentuate the film, really, doesn't it?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think also another thing that I noticed about this film is the is sort of David Fincher's sort of cinematography. I mean, it's not that interesting. The cinematography is not that interesting. It's kind of just a bit
Yeah.
sort of,
It's nothing
you know, it
special. It's
nothing special. But there's the odd sort of the opening scene of this film I really loved,
yeah,
and I think it is the sort of the slow moving camera in the car across the neighborhood, whilst this I can't remember what the song was, but
is it Hurdy
it
Gurdy Man?
is I don't know, I can't
That's a
remember,
great
but
great song, by the way. And it's in the film. It's a great song.
yeah. And it's this sort of slow sort of pan across this neighborhood, and I thought
Yeah.
that's such a wonderful. And I mean, I love that. It might have been referencing another film that he's watched because directors quite often
Well,
do
I was
that.
gonna say, I think it's 2004. He did Panic Room, and
Mm.
yeah, to introduce the house, he did the same thing. Slow movement throughout the house, going through objects just very
Mm.
slowly. Um,
Mm.
that's what gave me that same feel. So I think that might be one of his things. It's just like to introduce it. It's just slow moving, steady cam shot of the location.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, and it's that sort of like that in conjunction with the you know the mise en scène, like you were saying, is sort of like it. Yeah, it just really kind of like puts it together into sort of a nice wonderful sort of yeah interesting sort of image thing, and yeah, it's just so much of in the way that David Fincher really does in sort of to capture the sort of who he is as a sort of a director, and
Yeah,
a lot of his films tend to be follow similar themes and sort of sort of stooped in realism.
yeah,
If you were to if you like dramatizing the realism but makes it feel like this is actually how it played out.
yeah. Such
So
as like
like
Social Network and Zodiac and
yeah,
stuff like that.
social network, Zodiac, these sort of films that are just very much in the similar sort of class of and I think there's a lot you can sort of learn from David Fincher as a director. Um, and yeah, it's very interesting guy. You
Yeah,
know, from what
he's
I'm
he's.
saying.
I'll tell you this for sure. He's a very dedicated director.
Mm,
It's like especially what you were saying, the set design. His team worked around the clock to make sure each of the murder scenes were like 100% accurate. Um,
mm,
I remember seeing somewhere. Let me just get this up. Give me 2 seconds. I have this brilliant quote. So David Fincher and his team made certain aspects of the true crime to as real in reality as possible. Unsurprisingly, some of the most scary scenes in the film. Um, and then a quote from Brian Hartnell. If you don't know, he's one of the survivors of the murders at Lake Berryessa. He says what they've captured in the film. Um, when you see when Cecilia is being stabbed, that flash I saw happen. So what he was saying is what he saw on that screen. It basically made him go back to that day when his girlfriend
mm,
got murdered. So it's so realistic, and the art of realism
mm,
is on point there. On point.
mm. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's really sort of. I mean, I hate to say it's a very real film, but it is
It,
sort of that. It's sort of, it's not like documentary real, but it's sort of like it's not sort of super dramatized, and
yeah,
it's. I mean, if you compare it to sort of a film like Fight Club, where it's sort of it's another one of his films, which is a lot more sort of stooped in sort of dramatization and
yeah,
what it is in sort of a film. It's interesting sort of how we can sort of go between those sort of two extremes a little bit. But even Fight Club's still quite a realistic sort of feeling film.
yeah.
Um, you know,
With a
and
great twist, by the way.
yeah. When it turns out they are the Fight Club.
Yeah,
There's a Fight Club inside of all of us.
yeah.
Um, you know,
You
but
don't talk about it. You don't talk about it.
no, no, it's inside all of us. It's a very yeah, but I think I think perhaps I don't know. When I watched this film again the other day for this podcast, I felt like although we've saying that our sort of positive stuff is, you said that it's your sort of your favorite film. I kind of felt like it was a bit too long,
Mm,
and b sort of a bit not really pushing the boat out that
yeah,
much. And I think my sort of um, I think it doesn't push the boat out that much because it's just a crime thriller
yeah,
that's based on a true story, and it's got Robert Downey Jr. in it. That's just sort of mainstream cinema. I mean, it's relatively well done mainstream cinema, but it's still mainstream cinema that's covering sort of very sort of blasé sort of topics or
yeah,
whatever. And I think perhaps that's just my sort of criticism of sort of anti sort of anti sort of mainstream cinema or whatever.
yeah,
But and I think it is too long. I my sort of theory on films is, I mean, this is Mark Commode, who's a very famous film critic, and he writes for The Guardian, and he has a show on Radio 5 and stuff like that. Whenever he reviews a film and he thinks it's too long, he goes 2001 Space Odyssey, right? Goes through the entire sort of um, like how the world was created, or whatever. I mean, does it? I don't know. I can't remember. And he compares that to 2001: A Space Odyssey is 2 hours and 44 minutes,
yeah,
and that goes through sort of um, the dawn of man until sort of whatever. And if Zodiac is a very very long film,
yeah,
and it's sort of nearing that length. And what happens in Zodiac? Well, it goes over a couple of years. Yeah, Zodiac's 2 hours 42 minutes,
yeah,
and they're about similar lengths. And you're going over the sort of the it goes over a lot less material. I think this film could have been condensed down to about 2 hours, maybe.
yeah. So
Um,
MGM. who were the original distributors of it before I went to Paramount, MGM were fixated on a running time of 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I absolutely refused to go beyond it. Fincher and his team wanted a longer film, so they took the concept to Paramount and Warner Brothers to agree a co-financed and the picture at Fincher's preferred running time. That was from Screen Rant. That's another good movie website I do enjoy looking at, like you said, the running time could have gone down to 2 hours. Yeah, MGM were fixated on 2 hours and 15 minutes. So.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's such a long film.
It is a long film, but the reason I enjoyed it so much is I got immersed in it. It's because, like I said, true crime and stuff like that is my favorite kind of thing to watch. So I was watching it just glued to the screen. So like my favorite TV show is also Mindhunters. If you haven't seen that, go and watch it. It's so good, and it's produced by David Fincher, and a couple of episodes are directed by it, and it's about the people who invented the word serial killer and did all like psychology on the serial killers and stuff like that. It's so good, and that's why I like Zodiac, is because it's just 2 hours and 40 minutes of them trying to catch this murderer. That's why I love it.
I mean, but they never catch him though, do they?
Catch him, no.
That's the sort of This whole thing is sort of like one of the sort of the more poignant points of this film is that they never catch the killer.
Well, it's ambiguous at the end. It's at the end, Graysmith walks into this shop and just looks at the guy that he suspects it is. Just keeps looking at him, and he says, "Can I help you?" And he just when he looks up, he sees Graysmith, and the guy's face just drops. That guy eventually, in real life, the guy actually got arrested, but committed suicide before the trial. So we'll never know who actually is. So lots of people think it's that guy, but who knows?
Well, it probably is.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I've seen a documentary on the Zodiac as well. And these sort of things. I mean, it's interesting, sort of. People love sort of these. Oh, he's a murderer. He's a psychopath, sort of things.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting sort of story arc, and it's like I said, it's used a lot of sort of mainstream cinema. I think perhaps it's still sort of, I don't know, it's perhaps overdone a little bit in my opinion, but it's still an interesting film. There's still a lot to sort of learn from this as a film, and I think it does take you through the steps of the sort of the crime thriller quite well, and it's well done. It's the sort of production quality of it is well done, and it is executed well. But I think it is too long. It's very, very long. I think if I perhaps saw this in the cinema in 2007, I think longer films are better in the cinema. But I think longer films at home are a bit sort of, people come in and they distract you.
In a cinema, it's pitch black. You're just fixated on this massive screen, and you've got your popcorn, you've got your Tango Ice Blast, which is the way to go.
And you've allotted the amount of time to watch the film. I think that's why.
And really comfy seats as well, which recline as well. If you go to the view is so good for that.
Wow, very bougie of you.
Get my $6.99 ticket.
I don't know. I think that's why there's so many people like watching sort of Avengers films in the cinemas, because they're very long films and it's sort of an experience and nobody distracts you. I think watching Avengers films at home is a very sad experience. In my opinion, I think if you ever watch an Avengers film, you should probably watch it at the cinema, or just not at all, in my opinion. But I think
no comment.
I think I don't know. It's too long. That's my main criticism of this film. I think it's also sort of a bit sort of. I think David Fincher does some stuff well, but I think it's just. I mean, I feel like I'm hating on your favorite film, but I suppose it's just my opinion. But, it is what it is, I suppose.
I mean, I kind of hated on your favourite film a little bit.
You did, but
So,
I suppose but my film's fantastic though, so you can't.
so it's mine.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot you can learn from both of them, and obviously every film that we review, it's not going to be sort of I mean, we both unilaterally hated Signs,
Yeah.
but I
We've
think
done a lot of good films for the past few weeks, and
yeah,
season 1 especially. When it comes to season 2, it could be the fact that we do some critically not acclaimed films. You never know.
yeah.
Just to
The
rip
antithesis,
the shreds out of them.
the antithesis of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but yeah, I think it's an interesting film, Zodiac.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if you had to sort of if you had to rank it out of 10. We do this every I keep saying that we don't review films, we just tell you about films, but we are technically reviewing them, really.
Yeah.
And I think perhaps going against my
Better
original
judgment.
vision, my original vision for this podcast is sort of we'll tell you the technical aspects of films, but is perhaps gone past that now.
Yeah.
And we are reviewing them now. But and it is called the Northern Film Review, so I think
Yeah.
perhaps it was always my original idea was always doomed to fail a little bit. But
I mean, we have just started the podcast, so you never know; it could change later on throughout.
yeah. I mean, we could start reviewing music. Go to the ballet.
The theatre.
Yeah. Have a bit of fun. The Northern Ballet Review.
Yeah. Well,
That's
yeah.
the sort of
The
sort of show.
Yeah, we've got the Northern Valley right near the uni, so
Yeah. I mean, we could go see some jazz shows. Go derivative of Miles David.
Just do what they did on. It's always funny in Philadelphia. Derivative, a bullshit. Danny DeVito,
Yeah.
amazing. But
just wear black turtlenecks.
Yeah. Maybe next year, maybe next year we could do a watch along. That's something I really want to do. Once COVID's ended, do a watch along on a film and just comment about it whilst watching it.
I think about 2 people will listen to that, but I think I think yeah. So if you had to give this film 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 4 out of 10, what would you give it? No. Not out of those options. You could choose what out of it.
9.5 out of 10.
You'd give it a 9.5 out of 10.
9.
A 9. Okay, I thought you said 9.5.
No. Like I said, it is one of my favourite films, so that's why I've banked it up highly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're gonna go for like 5, aren't you? So.
I mean,
you can't rate it lower than Signs. That is criminal if you do. Criminal.
God, we really hated Signs, didn't we?
We hated Signs, but gave it like a 4.
Yeah. I don't know. Perhaps I'm not the biggest fan of David Fincher. I know.
Oh God! Shot through the heart.
I like The Social Network, and I enjoyed Fight Club.
I bet you would enjoy Gone Girl as well. That's kind of your film, I think.
I mean, if it's depressing and it has
very
French lesbians in it, I think. Which is if you got that joke out of context, it's the Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which we did the other week. So I'm not just saying I'm not in a creepy way, but it's
I like French lesbians.
I like French lesbians.
Watch Blue's the Warmest Colour then. That's depressing with French lesbians in it then. So
yeah. But I think I don't know. I'll give it like a 7. I can't give it any higher than an 8.
No. That's still an okay score though.
Yeah, I mean it's still positive,
Yeah.
It's
not like Signs. Not like Signs.
No, nothing will ever be as bad as Signs. No, I'm sure there's a lot of films.
There are tons worse than Signs. I think that was the first really bad film we ever reviewed. So we kind of went overkill on like ripping it to shreds.
Yeah, and we just wanted to. I mean, I don't know. I felt like yeah, I mean, the Zodiac, it doesn't really have that sort of. There's nothing like, apart from the length of the film. There's nothing just sort of. There's nothing outrageously bad about
No.
Zodiac, is there?
Yeah.
But I think I don't. For me, I don't think there's anything really special for me either. I don't sort of go, wow, this is really sort of groundbreaking, sort of cinema, and it really sort of delves into the deeper concepts of, you know,
The psyche.
humanity. Yeah. I think, and also what I sort of miss about this film is I feel like there's perhaps not a deeper meaning to the film. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure there is,
Well,
but
it's a true life account by Robert Graysmith. So it was originally a
yeah,
book, and it was just him
mm,
saying what he did during that time. So I wouldn't say
mm,
there should be a deeper meaning within that film, but
mm,
filmmakers, directors can do whatever they want with it. They can make
yeah,
a
mm,
really happy comedy film about depression. It's
mm.
like
Yeah, I think perhaps, I don't know. I didn't really. I like films that have a deeper metaphysical sort of, you know, relationship, and sort of, you know, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The deeper meaning is all about sort of the female gaze and sort of
yeah.
how we look at each other, and
And then
that sort of
and then you got
thing
Parasite, which is about class
about class.
and
And I
hierarchy.
enjoy, and I enjoy the sort of the deeper sort of meaning and the deeper sort of context about the films, and you know, I think in what I sort of want from a film is it to be like, I like to see films as the new philosophy, or the new way to convey philosophy, and
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't really get that from Zodiac.
So you think films are going to
Um,
be the new poems then?
Gonna be the new poems. Well, not really, but um I think, you know, the filmmakers are the new philosophers. I
Okay.
mean, that I could do an entire podcast about my feelings on that,
Which we may.
but I
Maybe direct to YouTube, but
yeah, about sort of the deeper sort of metaphysical physical ideas of cinema. But
mm,
oh god, if that sounds like a dissertation idea, that does.
yeah.
Um,
Keep
the
that in
deeper
mind for
metaphysical.
next year then.
Yeah. I don't know. That's gonna be a. I mean, we're all struggling with film art as
So,
as a module. Imagine doing our dissertations next year,
is it
which is going
what?
to be leaps and
What,
bounds.
5,000 to like 10,000 words alongside of a film we
Yeah,
have to make, like a 20-minute film we have to make, along with something else. It's like, oh my god,
yeah. Let's not moan about that.
we're gonna capitulate later.
Yeah, we'll all have a little cry, a unifying cry
Yeah, like
on.
we'll do like they did in Midsummer. Just if you cry, I cry.
Oh yeah. Midsummer, man. That's the sort of the weird film.
Yeah,
But anyway, I think that's all we've got to say on sort of the subject of Zodiac. Really,
yeah,
it's like we said, 7 and then 9. It's yeah, differing opinions, but it's
yeah,
still relatively positive
yeah.
review on the film. So hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Hopefully you've got some thoughts and opinions on Zodiac you might not have had before. And obviously we'll be back next week for our final show of the season, because
Ooh,
we do our shows weekly as a radio show.
on the Northern Film,
So
not on the
on
Leeds
on
Student
on
Radio.
on Lee Student Radio.
Yeah.
So we're technically live right now on Lee Student Radio.
Hello, people.
Hello.
Hello,
Um,
all.
which is yeah, and we tend to go with sort of how they do the show. So we'll do a season with the terms.
Yeah.
So next week will be our final show, and it'll be a special one. We'll do an interesting film. And
I
hopefully,
put Oliver on the spot yesterday to think of a good film for us to do.
mm,
An interesting
I
one as
haven't
well.
I haven't thought of one yet, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell
And it
everyone
was
about it.
like 1 o'clock in the morning. I messaged you about that though, wasn't
Yeah,
it? I'm probably good that you didn't think about it because
yeah.
we need our
It's
beauty
like
sleep.
Oliver. What's the film? It's like, I don't know.
Sometimes we choose a film like the day before, which is not very good.
Yeah.
but
No.
you know, we have
And
more
then we'll have
pressing
to.
matters to do.
Yeah, I suppose I was awake last night, sort of doing my film art assignment, but yeah, it'll be a special one next week, and we'll get it to you, and it'll be very interesting. And then we'll be back after that show in the new year in January,
Yeah.
where we'll start our entirely new season.
Yeah, we need a break as well, so.
Yeah.
But
we need a break from all this,
but
but we're still going to be working on the YouTube channel. And
yeah.
stuff.
So, but during the break, we have we might talk about it a bit later in the last episode, but we have ideas that we've got meetings planned to talk about how we're going to make it further and stuff like that. So, hopefully,
yeah, and
next season might be our best season. I mean,
there will be there will be a tutorial on the YouTube channel as well over the Christmas break about how to sort of record podcasts and stuff like that if we get around to it.
Yeah.
Online podcasts, because we've learned a lot doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hopefully you'll be with us next week to come listen to the final show of the season. So yeah, I've been Oliver.
I've been Luke.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.